the diamond ring split skin before the pain registers. Dr. Lexi Monroe tastes copper flooding her mouth as her body slams into the medical cart, steel corner kissing her temple with a constellation of stars. The hospital floor is ice against her palms. Above her, a woman in Chanel holds a phone like a weapon, still streaming, still performing for 60,000 witnesses who think they're watching justice. They're watching a woman sign her own death warrant. 3:47 a.m., Seoul Medical Center, and Peak Ryewon doesn't know that the black surgeon bleeding on these sterile white tiles is engaged to the man who controls 40% of the city's underground. She doesn't know that in 18 minutes, Hong Min-soo will walk through those doors and systematically dismantle everything she's spent 40 years building. She doesn't know that her assault just exposed an international organ trafficking network that will cost her 60 hours of freedom before 15 years in federal prison. But here's what nobody tells you about power in Seoul. The real players don't announce themselves. They don't need to. And when someone hurts what belongs to them, they don't just destroy. They transform that destruction into something permanent. This isn't about revenge. It's about revolution. And if you think you know how this ends, you don't. Not yet. Stay with me. Because what happens in the next 40 minutes will show you what justice looks like when love has the resources to enforce it and the wisdom to rebuild from ashes. Now let's get into this. Blood drips onto Lexi's scrubs, each drop a metronome counting seconds she doesn't have. Ryewon's voice cuts through the fluorescent buzz, rapid Korean punctuated by that word Lexi caught even through her intermediate comprehension. Inappropriate. The live stream comments scroll past like a feeding frenzy, racist rhetoric dressed up as concern, and Ryewon reads them aloud like validation from heaven itself. See? Ryewon pivots the phone, capturing Lexi's face, the blood, the vulnerability. These foreign doctors think they can touch our children. Experiment on Korean bodies like we're nothing. The hospital security hovers at the edges, uncertain. Money creates paralysis in Seoul, and Ryewon's designer suit costs more than most of them make in 6 months. Social media amplifies that power, 100,000 followers watching, judging, believing whatever narrative she spins. Lexi's phone lies 3 feet away, screen cracked but still recording. Still capturing every word in perfect English that Ryewon just used. People like you need to learn your place. Across the city, in a penthouse overlooking Gangnam, a phone lights up. The alert cuts through silk sheets and early morning quiet like a scalpel. Alert. Lexi Monroe. Distress. Seoul Medical Center. Hong Min-soo's hand reaches for the device before he's fully conscious. The screen shows 5 camera angles, security footage his systems pulled automatically when Lexi's biometric markers spiked. Heart rate elevated. GPS location static. Facial recognition flagging injury. And there she is. His Lexi, his brilliant cardiac surgeon who saves lives before breakfast, on the floor with blood streaming from her eyebrow while a woman in Chanel stands over her like a conqueror. Min-soo doesn't move for 5 seconds. Absolute stillness, the kind that comes before Category 5 storms. Then his feet hit the floor, and everything starts moving with precision that would terrify anyone who understands what it means. Back at Seoul Medical, nurses help Lexi to her feet. She refuses to leave, refuses to stop until she finishes the post-op notes for the surgery she just completed. Professional despite blood soaking through the butterfly bandages a resident applies with trembling hands. Despite the concussion protocol sheet someone presses into her palm. Despite knowing that 60,000 people just watched her get assaulted and are commenting about her skin color, her nationality, her audacity to practice medicine in their country. 12 years of American hospital racism taught Lexi how to survive. How to smile when they question your credentials. How to stay calm when they assume you're the janitor, not the doctor. How to make yourself small enough to be tolerated, unthreatening enough to be allowed in the room. But something about this moment, about saving a life only to have that boy's mother attack her on camera while spinning conspiracy theories to thousands, about the taste of copper and the cold floor and the comments scrolling past in Korean and English, both saying the same thing in different words. Something breaks. Or maybe something finally refuses to break anymore. In his penthouse, Min-soo is already dressed. Black suit, black shirt, death in designer Italian wool. His phone is pressed to his ear before his tie is knotted. I need everything on peak Ryuan. Now. The voice on the other end doesn't ask questions. 20 years of building networks, of creating systems where loyalty flows down and information flows up, means Minsa doesn't need to explain. Doesn't need to justify. His people know that tone, know what it means when his voice drops to that particular frequency that vibrates in your chest like a threat you can feel but not quite hear. 6 calls in 4 minutes. Call 1, his lawyer. Courtroom ready in 1 hour. Everything documented, everything prosecutable. Call 2, tech specialist. 7 years deep. Everything she's ever posted, everyone she's ever contacted, every pattern we can find. Call 3, Korea's Medical Licensing Board. I'm calling in that favor. Now. Call 4, his associate in Las Vegas. Peak Jinho's casino operations. I need a full audit by dawn Pacific time. Call 5, the news network director who owes him. Live coverage. I'll send you footage you'll want to run. Call 6, Peak Jinho himself. Your wife just made a mistake. Meet me at Seoul Medical in 20 minutes if you want to salvage anything. Each call under 30 seconds. No emotion. Just execution. His security team mobilizes like a military operation. 6 men, 3 black SUVs, enough weaponry to start a small war, but the discipline not to use it unless absolutely necessary. Because Hong Minsa didn't build an empire by being reckless. He built it by being inevitable. The tech specialist's preliminary report arrives before Minsa reaches the elevator. Peak Ryu 1, age 53, married to casino mogul Peak Jinho, 1 son, 100,000 social media followers, Seoul Women's Association board member. Standard wealthy Seoul housewife profile on the surface. But then the anomaly. 47 instances of Ryuwon filming in Seoul Medical's cardiac wing over the past 3 years. Always targeting foreign medical staff. Always patients from low-income backgrounds. Always with that same performative outrage about inappropriate behavior. Minsa's joy tightens as the SUV convoy pulls out into Seoul's pre-dawn streets. This wasn't random racism. This was territorial. And he's about to find out why. 3 months earlier, Lexi Monroe had flown to Seoul for what was supposed to be a 2-week consultation. Seoul Medical needed someone who specialized in a rare congenital heart defect, and her research at Johns Hopkins made her one of 5 surgeons worldwide who could perform the procedure. She'd expected resistance, prepared for the subtle dismissals, the constant competency tests, the assumptions. What she hadn't prepared for was meeting Hong Min-soo at the hospital charity gala. 50 million won donated with a handshake and a smile, then 3 hours of conversation about cardiac anomalies like he actually cared about the science, not just the tax write-off. Most people's eyes glaze over when I talk about left ventricular outflow tract obstruction, Lexi had said, champagne making her honest. Most people don't understand that everything interesting happens in the details. Minsa's smile was genuine, reaching eyes that assessed her the way she assessed patient scans, looking for the hidden truth beneath the surface. Their second date, he'd been honest about what he did. Import-export logistics, the kind that don't appear on customs forms. He'd given her the choice to walk away, and she'd seen genuine fear in his eyes that she would. She'd stayed. Partly because of that fear, the vulnerability of a powerful man worried she'd reject him. Partly because she'd watched how he treated the hospital staff with more respect than most of the surgeons showed each other. Mostly because her instincts about people had kept her alive through 12 years in American hospitals, and those instincts said Hong Min-soo was dangerous to his enemies, but safe for her. 8 weeks later, engaged. Everyone said too fast. For them, it was perfect. Always tell me if someone hurts you, he'd said, slipping the ring on her finger. She laughed at his excessive security detail, the way his people seemed to materialize from shadows whenever she went anywhere. Baby, you don't understand what I am. What that makes you. Now, pressing gauze to her split eyebrow in Seoul Medical's cardiac wing, she understands. 6 hours earlier, at 2:53 a.m., the code blue had shattered the quiet of Lexi's post-op review. Room 847, cardiac wing. 22-year-old male, myocardial infarction, and the name on the chart made her pause. Peak Taeyong. The same defect she'd flown to Korea to study, presenting in a patient who should have had access to the best preventive care money could buy. But the chart told a different story. Ignored symptoms. Missed appointments. A mother who'd refused to believe anything was wrong with her perfect son until his heart decided to prove her wrong at 140 beats per minute. Lexi had run. The surgery was textbook, if textbooks covered cases this severe. Just open in 4 minutes, finding the malformed vessels exactly where they shouldn't be, redirecting blood flow with sutures so precise they looked like calligraphy. 22 minutes from incision to closure, and Taejong's heart was beating steady, oxygenated blood finally reaching tissues that had been slowly dying his entire life. She'd saved his life while his mother slept, unaware her son was coding 2 floors above her hotel room. At 3:41 a.m., Lexi was washing blood from her hands when her phone buzzed. Minsu, checking in like he did every night she worked late. Just finished a big one. Kid's going to live. She'd sent the text with pruned fingers, not knowing she had 6 minutes before everything exploded. 3:47 a.m., Ryewon had burst through the cardiac wing doors with her phone already recording. Live stream already active. 60,000 followers already watching as she spun her narrative about the foreign doctor who dared to touch her unconscious son's chest, who'd put her hands on Korean flesh without permission, who needed to be exposed before she could hurt anyone else. The assault happened fast. Ryewon grabbing for Lexi's phone when she tried to explain the surgery, tried to show the post-op notes, tried to make anyone listening understand that she'd saved Taejong's life. The slap. The shove. The medical cart's steel corner. Copper flooding Lexi's mouth. Stars bursting behind her eyes. And Ryewon standing over her, triumphant, telling 60,000 people that people like you need to learn your place in perfect English that revealed this was never about protecting her son. This was about power, territory, control. And peak Ryewon just made the fatal mistake of thinking she was untouchable. For 05 a.m., 3 black SUVs pull up to Seoul Medical's emergency entrance. Hospital security recognizes Hong Min-soo before he's fully out of the vehicle. In Seoul, people who control the underground don't need to announce themselves. Their presence changes the air pressure in a room, makes people straighten spines and check exits, and suddenly remember urgent business elsewhere. The administrator appears, pale and sweating despite the air conditioning. Mr. Hong, we're handling the situation. Where is she? Mince's voice is quiet. That's what makes it terrifying. Men who need to yell haven't learned that real power speaks softly and carries consequences instead of volume. Room 347. But sir, the other woman is in the lobby with. Min-soo is already moving. His security detail fans out. 6 men who look like businessmen but move like special forces, covering exits and angles with practiced efficiency. In the lobby, Ryewon is still streaming. 75,000 viewers now, emboldened by support flooding her comments. Min-soo enters Lexi's room alone. She's sitting on the exam table, butterfly bandages closing her eyebrow, concussion protocol sheet in her lap, blood dried on her scrubs. She looks up when he enters, and something in her face cracks. Not breaking. Just finally allowing herself to stop being strong for one moment. His hands cup her face with devastating gentleness, examining the damage with fingers that tremble despite their carefulness. Split eyebrow. Swelling cheek. Bruise forming along her jaw. Each injury catalogued with the precision of a man who's about to make someone pay for every single one. I'm okay, Lexi says, but her voice shakes. She's out there lying to thousands of people. I know. Her stream will be down in 4 minutes. Her life in 60 hours. Stay here. He kisses her forehead, and she grabs his hand before he can pull away. Don't kill anyone. Min-soo looks at her, and she sees both versions of him in that moment. The monster the world knows, and the man only she gets to see. I won't kill her. I promise. A pause. But I will erase her. He walks out, and Lexi knows, somewhere deep in her bones where instinct lives, that peak Ryewon's old life just ended. The lobby of Seoul Medical at 4 a.m. should be quiet. Instead, it's lit up like a stage, Ryewon performing for 82,000 viewers now, the number climbing as her stream gets shared across Korean social media. She's repositioned herself in better lighting, makeup perfect, Victim performance flawless. This foreign doctor assaulted my son during surgery, she's saying, showing photos of Taeyoung unconscious in his hospital bed. Who knows what she did to him while he couldn't consent? Minsa walks into frame. The comments explode. People who recognize him, people who know what his presence means, people frantically trying to warn Ryuwon that she's about to face consequences she can't imagine. But she doesn't look at comments anymore, too caught up in her performance, too convinced of her own power. Excuse me, I'm in the middle of something. She turns, sees his face, and recognition hits like ice water. This is Hong Min-soo. This is the man who controls souls underground. This is power on a completely different level than her social media followers and women's association connections. Why are you? She starts, confusion and fear mixing. Her phone screen goes black. Stream disconnected. 82,000 viewers suddenly cut off, and in the silence that follows, Mince's voice is conversational, almost pleasant. Peak Ryuwon. Age 53. Married to Peak Jinho, casino operator. One son, currently recovering from emergency cardiac surgery performed by Dr. Lexi Monroe, Johns Hopkins, one of 5 people worldwide who can perform that specific procedure. 100,000 social media followers. Seoul Women's Association board member. Would you like me to continue? Because I know everything. Her face drains of color. How dare you interfere? Do you know who I am? Yes. Do you know who she is? Husband Peak Jinho arrives at that moment, already pale, already understanding from Minsu's phone call that this is damage control, not defense. Mr. Hong, please, there's been a misunderstanding. There's been an assault. Witnessed by 82,000 people and captured on 5 security cameras. Conference room. Now, it's not a request. The conference room door closes with a sound like a coffin ceiling. Security outside, witnesses carefully excluded, just Minsu, his lawyer, his tech specialist, Ryuwon, and her rapidly panicking husband. Minsu's tech specialist sets a tablet on the table, and the assault plays from 5 angles simultaneously. Ryuwon's face, Lexi's blood, the shove, the impact, and Ryuwon's voice in perfect English saying words that can't be taken back, can't be explained away, can't be anything except what they obviously are. Mrs. Peak, Minsa says, and his voice is still quiet, still controlled, still absolutely terrifying. You assaulted the woman I'm going to marry. Shock ripples across Ryuwon's face. Understanding flooding in, too late, always too late. That doctor you attacked on your live stream? She saved your son's life at 3 a.m. while you were sleeping. She performed surgery that only 5 people in the world can do. And you thanked her by splitting her face open on social media. The tablet screen changes, showing the assault from angles that capture every detail. Evidence that will hold up in any court. Documentation that can't be disputed. Here's what happens next. Minsa leans forward, and the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. The medical board receives all footage within the hour. Your social media accounts get suspended for terms of service violations. Defamation lawsuit files tomorrow morning. Your husband's casino business relationships come under review. He pauses, lets that sink in, then continues. And then, Mrs. Peak, I'm going to look deeper. Because someone who attacks a surgeon in a cardiac wing at 3 a.m. while live streaming isn't protecting their son. That's territorial. So here's my question. His eyes lock on hers, and she can't look away. What were you really doing in that wing? Before Ryuwon can answer, the conference room door opens. Medical staff Will and Taeyong, post-surgery but awake, and his face says he heard everything through the door. Mom. His voice cracks. What did you do? Son, I was protecting you. From the doctor who saved my life? Taeyong looks at her like he's never seen her before. Like the mother he knew just transformed into a stranger. I heard what he said. About investigating. Do it. This to Minsu. Because if my mother hurt someone who saved me, I want nothing to do with this. He refuses to look at Ryuwon again. Just turns his wheelchair toward his father. I want nothing to do with this. The betrayal on Ryuwon's face would be satisfying if Minsu cared about satisfaction. But he doesn't. He cares about results. The tech specialist pulls up more data. 47 instances of Mrs. Peak filming in the cardiac wing over 3 years. Always targeting foreign medical staff. always patients from low-income backgrounds. He scrolls through records, each one a pattern building toward inevitable conclusion. Cross-referenced with your husband's casino operations, specifically the Las Vegas properties, and we found connections. Donor lists. Patient transfers. Medical tourism that doesn't quite add up. Minsa watches Ryewon's face, sees the exact moment she understands that he knows. That he found what she thought was hidden. That her assault on Lexi just became the thread that unraveled everything. She's not just racist, Minsa says quietly. She's hunting. The tech specialist pulls up a case file. Kim family, 3 years ago. Daughter needs heart surgery, can't afford Seoul Medical's 50 million won price tag. Desperate social media post asking for help. Ryewon contacts them privately, offers a solution. Medical tourism to Las Vegas, much cheaper, very safe, she knows people. The family flies to Las Vegas. Surgery happens in a hotel room, unlicensed surgeon, equipment that's not quite sterile, procedure that's not quite right. The daughter survives, barely, with complications that will plague her forever. The family pays 20 million won, grateful it wasn't 50. Ryewon keeps 8 million won profit for facilitating the connection. This happened 47 times, the tech specialist says. 3 patients died from infections. Total profit, 2.3 million USD. The room goes silent. Even Ryewon's husband looks sick, and Minsa marks that reaction. Not everyone in this family is corrupt. That matters for what comes next. Lexi enters the conference room at that moment, escorted by security, and her face when she hears the numbers. Horror. Nausea. Understanding that the attack wasn't random racism, wasn't even just about territory. It was about a trafficking network that used desperate families' love for their children as leverage for profit. Oh my God, Lexi whispers. She was hunting in that wing. I was disrupting her pipeline. Minsa's security chief speaks up. Sir, we could disappear her. Clean, quiet, no one would ever know. And this is the moment. This is where Hong Minsa shows what kind of man Lexi Monroe made him want to become. No. He looks at Lexi, sees the tears on her face, the trauma of understanding she wasn't attacked for being black. She was attacked for being good at her job, which somehow feels worse and better simultaneously. I could kill her. Probably should. He's still looking at Lexi. But you asked me not to kill anyone. And I keep my promises to you. A pause. Besides, death would be mercy. To his team, I'm going to do something worse. I'm going to make her useful. His lawyer nods. How aggressive. Scorched earth. But legal. Everything documented, everything prosecutable. We destroy the woman, but we save what we learn from her network. Every victim gets contacted. Every family gets justice. Every connection gets exposed. He looks at the architect plans he's had prepared for months, waiting for the right moment. The Monroe Hong Center for Cardiac Excellence. 2 locations, Seoul and Las Vegas. Free care for anyone who needs it, funded by seized assets and his own considerable fortune. We take everything she built on exploitation and rebuild it as salvation. The tech specialist grins despite himself. That's actually brilliant. I learned it from Lexi, Minsa says. She doesn't just fix hearts. She fixes systems. If this story shook you, if you never expected it to go from assault to international trafficking, you need to subscribe right now. Because what happens in the next 20 minutes will show you what justice looks like when it's about building, not just destroying. Hit that subscribe button. You need to see where this goes. 60 hours. Watch an empire collapse in real time. Hour 6. Dawn breaks over Seoul. Social media accounts suspended. Ryewon's phone floods with notifications, but she can't respond, can't defend herself, can't control the narrative anymore. News breaks. Influencer assault caught on camera. Her face everywhere, but now she's the villain. Comments shift from support to horror. She hit the doctor who saved her son? Hour 12. The medical board holds an emergency session. Seoul Women's Association votes unanimous removal. Hospital donor plaques with her name get removed from walls. Former friends send text messages. Don't contact me again. Social death happening faster than physical death ever could. Hour 24. Federal investigation opens. Minsu's FBI contact from his legitimate business partnerships, finally useful. Las Vegas casino operations raided by agents. Bank accounts frozen across 2 continents. Peak Jinho files divorce papers, and the news breaks. Seoul socialite's secret life. Hour 36. Trafficking arrests begin across 4 countries. Victims identified, families contacted, justice finally arriving for people who thought they'd never see it. Perp walks, handcuffs, media frenzy. Interpol coordination. Evidence seized from the mansion that had seemed untouchable yesterday. Hour 48. Assets frozen completely. The mansion wrapped in police tape. Bank statements showing 0. Legal team abandoning ship. Taeyong's public statement disowning his mother's actions trends across Korean social media. Hour 60. Courtroom. Judge's gavel. 15 years. Federal trafficking charges. Ryuwon in handcuffs, orange jumpsuit, perp walk from courthouse to prison transport. From socialite to inmate in exactly 60 hours. But here's the twist that changes everything. At hour 50, at a news conference. Peak Jinho, pale but steady, I had no knowledge of my wife's trafficking coordination. When I discovered the truth, I immediately contacted federal authorities and have been cooperating fully. Because not all wealthy people are villains. Some are just married to them. And Hong Mince's intelligence network had known this, had used it, had turned the husband's guilt into cooperation that brought down the whole operation faster than violence ever could. Lexi watches the news coverage from Mince's penthouse, overwhelmed. It happens so fast. Justice doesn't wait, Mince says, but he's watching her face, seeing the conflict there. All I wanted was an apology. Lexi's voice breaks. This feels like too much. And here's where she shows why he loves her. Would you have destroyed her if she'd just been racist? Or is it only justice because of the trafficking? Mince sits, takes her hands, looks at her with absolute honesty. I would have destroyed her for touching you. Yes. But the trafficking? That's why I'm not stopping at destruction. He shows her the plans. Architect drawings, legal documents, funding proposals spread across the table. This is what we're building from her ashes. Lexi stares, not understanding yet. International Cardiac Research Center. 2 locations, Seoul and Las Vegas. Free care for anyone who needs it. Funded by seized trafficking assets, ongoing donations, my contribution. The Monroe Hong Center for Cardiac Excellence. Her hands shake as she touches the papers. You named it after me? After us. You're the heart. I'm the structure. We're taking everything she built on exploitation and rebuilding it as salvation. Lexi starts crying, and Mince pulls her close, letting her process everything. The assault. The trafficking. The destruction. And now this transformation from violence into something that will outlive them both. You're building something permanent, she whispers against his chest. We're building something permanent. You asked me once what kind of man I want to be. This is my answer. 6 months later. Building a medical center takes time. Permits, construction, staff hiring, legal battles with Ryuwon's family trying to reclaim assets. 6 months of Lexi and Mince learning to build together, learning that creation is harder than destruction, but infinitely more satisfying. 6 months of wondering, would anyone actually come? Opening day arrives with media, government officials, the medical community watching skeptically. The Seoul location is beautiful, modern building with multilingual signs, waiting room designed for dignity not processing, state-of-the-art equipment funded by seized assets that once facilitated trafficking. Lexi stands at the microphone, butterfly bandage scar still visible above her eyebrow, and her voice is steady. This center exists because someone thought violence would silence me. Instead, it amplified my purpose. We're here to make sure no patient ever has to choose between their health and their dignity. Ribbon cut. Doors open. And the first patient walks in. She's Vietnamese, nervous, clutching paperwork. The same woman who'd called 6 months ago asking, will they treat someone like me? Being examined by Lexi when something on her history makes Lexi freeze. You were almost. Lexi recognizes her from the investigation files. The woman nods. 5 years ago, I almost went to Las Vegas. For cheaper surgery. But something felt wrong. I ran. Her eyes fill with tears. I've been too afraid to seek help since then. Until I saw your center opening. Lexi has to pause, has to breathe, has to let the full circle moment hit her. You're safe now. We're going to fix this. The surgery is textbook. Hours later, the woman walks out past the protesters who'd gathered. Ryuwon's supporters chanting Korean jobs for Korean doctors, signs, and media coverage, controversy that Minsu's team had anticipated and prepared for. The woman stops, looks at the protesters, and says loudly in Korean and English both, "They saved my life. That doctor saved my life." Silence. Some protesters lower their signs. One mother with a sick child breaks from the group, walks toward the center doors. "Can you help my daughter?" Doors open for her. Victory earned through action, not given. The Las Vegas location opens simultaneously via video link. Former trafficking hub, now healing center. American patients, immigrant communities, underserved populations, all receiving the same care. Director is a surgeon who'd lost his practice to discrimination, getting a second chance. Both centers connected, sharing research, coordinating care, building something that will save thousands of lives. That evening, Lexi and Minsa stand on the balcony of the Seoul Center, watching the city lights. She's exhausted, exhilarated, transformed from just a surgeon into something more. Director. Advocate. Reformer. "You could have just destroyed her," Lexi says quietly. "I learned from you. You don't just fix hearts. You fix systems." Silence. Comfortable, earned, full of future. "We fixed a system," Lexi says. "We fixed a system," Minsu agrees. In the year that follows, Lexi speaks at medical conferences about racism in healthcare. Trains international staff. Advocates for system reform. She'd come to Seoul for 2 weeks. She stayed to change everything. And Minsa transforms too. Still dangerous, still powerful, but building instead of just breaking. From underground king to philanthropist, using his networks for creation, not just control. Still the monster to his enemies, still the saint to Lexi, but now something more. Something better. The Vietnamese woman, 6 months post-surgery, plays with her children in a park. Healthy. Thriving. One of 847 patients treated in the first year. One of countless lives saved because Lexi refused to stay silent and Minsu refused to just destroy. The Filipino family's children, the Korean grandmother, the Chinese student, the Japanese businessman, faces not numbers, lives not statistics, all saved because 2 people chose transformation over revenge. Lexi and Minsu at the center, not looking at cameras, looking at patients. Building something that will outlast them both. Building proof that real power isn't destruction. Real power is choosing to build. If this story moved you, if it showed you what justice through transformation looks like, subscribe to my channel, Afro-Korean Folktales, where every story teaches that the strongest response to hate isn't more hate. It's building something so beautiful that hate becomes irrelevant. Comment below. Have you ever faced discrimination in healthcare? Share your story. Thank you for watching and see you next time.